Al-Halqi, addressing the People's Assembly, says that the government is carrying out its basic constitutional role in protecting the civilians and their properties by fighting terrorism, which is supported by regional and international sides. Darfur citizens and the villages surrounding it stressed in a mass rally their support to the Syrian Arab army in its war against terrorism. Tens of thousands of Bahrainis demonstrate in the third anniversary to the launch of their popular protests against the rule of Al-Khalifa regime and demanding reforms and democracy. Good afternoon, welcome to our news bulletin. I'm Dania Nizam. The People's Assembly has held its first session of the 6th ordinary term of the first legislative term with the presence of Prime Minister Al-Halqi and members of the cabinet. Addressing the Assembly, Speaker Mohammad al-Shaar hailed the performance of the government and the extensive efforts being exerted to provide services to the citizens like medication, foodstuff, education, electricity and the rehabilitation of all damaged areas. Al-Shaar stressed on the necessity to provide support and secure all the needs of the families of the martyrs and those wounded as soon as possible. Prime Minister Al-Halqi asserted in the first session of the People's Assembly that the Syrian government is continuing its national duty in its full capacity. Dr. Al-Halqi pointed out that the government is carrying out its basic constitutional role in protecting the citizens by fighting terrorism, which is supported by Arab and foreign countries. The final session of the second round of talks between the delegation of the Syrian Arab Republic and the coalition delegation in the presence of the UN envoy to Syria, al-Brahimi, ended yesterday. And it ended without reaching an agreement on the agenda, despite Syria's official delegation agreeing on it. The agenda of Geneva communique included 4 items, the first of which is rejecting violence and combating terrorism. The second is a transitional government. The third is protecting the institutions and maintaining their continuity, and the fourth focuses on the national conciliation. The delegation of the Syrian Arab Republic insisted on considering each item separately in the dialogue within the draft agenda in order to reach an agreement on each of them, because such an accord would reflect positively on other items. The official delegation explained that the coalition delegation wanted to make the transitional government a priority because the side of utilizing terrorism hasn't ended yet. Syrian Arab Republic delegation stressed that the item of combating terrorism or any other item couldn't be discussed in 2 hours and then moving on to other items without reaching an agreement. And this applied to all items, adding that any political solution that comes in the service of fighting terrorism, protecting Syria's sovereignty and saving its people is quite acceptable, and it is the main reason for the presence in Geneva. However, the other delegation doesn't have an independent decision.
The Syrian government's delegation accepted from the beginning, within the first 3 minutes of the meeting, the agenda proposed by the international mediator, Mr. Al-Brahimi. We did accept the agenda, the draft agenda of the meeting. The point, the problem was raised immediately by the other side when they gave their own interpretation of the agenda. And this is where the problems started raising in the meeting. The other side gave his own interpretation of the agenda by saying that there is no need we finalize the first item. There is no need to fully finalize the first item. We will give it one day for discussion, and then we will move to the other item, which is the interim government. We cannot move from one item 1, to item 2 or item 3 or item 4 without fully considering this item and concluding by a common vision of this item by the 2 sides. Something that the other side objected to by saying, no, we don't agree with this reading. So they wanted to dictate their own interpretation of the agenda in a very wrong way. And this is where the problem started between the two sides. You may be aware that President Obama made his statement yesterday about further supporting the military opposition, the armed groups. You may have heard what Mr. Ford told the coalition yesterday about the necessity to escalate militarily and to warming up the front in the south on the Syrian-Jordanian border. You may be aware of the Russian clarification of this threat, military threat of a military action by France and United States, some kind of military action. So those people you have referred to are not really committed towards guaranteeing the success of Geneva talks. On the contrary, there were no goodwill at all during all the talks in the second round with regard achieving at least or adopting a draft agenda. We spent 6 days talking about the necessity to adopt a draft agenda. At the end, today, the international mediator came to the meeting with a draft agenda. We immediately accepted the draft agenda, while the other side did not. You know, whatever you hear from these amateurs when they come here and they stand on the podium and they address the media, the international media, this is not accurate. This is not true. They are just misleading the public opinion by circulating some kind of wrong rumors.
Emphasizing the national principles and expressing support of the Syrian Arab Army in its war against terrorism, residents of Ya'fur in Damascus countryside staged a huge rally asserting their rejection of any foreign interference in Syria. Similarly, citizens of Ikrama neighborhood in Homs took to the streets in a massive rally in rejection of the foreign interference and in support of the firm national principles and Syrian army in its war against terrorism. Also in Jabli of Latakia countryside, a huge rally was organized where the citizens held the national flags and banners to express their allegiance to their country and their gratitude to the Syrian Arab Army, asserting that the official delegation in Geneva is the real representative of the Syrian people and their advocate against the takfiri terrorism. Units of the Syrian Arab Army have targeted terrorist gatherings in Al-Qabariyah and Man towns in Hama northeastern countryside. Other units have targeted terrorist gatherings in Sudan and Mork town, killing a number of them. A military source has said that among the killed who have been identified were Ahmed Ma'tou, Bilal Ahmed al-Sheikh, Dirar Mohammad Sattouf, Ismat Sulaiman al-Ahmed, Samir Ali Sheikh, Khalid and Hassan Hussein Swaydan. A military source said that the cases of tens of citizens have been settled as stability and security return to the towns of Beit Saham, Yelda and Babila in Damascus countryside. In Damascus countryside, the Syrian Arab Army also carried out a series of operations destroying the terrorists' hideouts and gatherings, including all weapons and ammunitions inside. Many terrorists from Jabhat al-Nusra were also eliminated, and the army destroyed large amounts of weapons in the farms of Rima and in the outskirts of Yabrud. Other terrorists were also killed in Al-Mleha, Al-Abbasiyin and Khan al-Sheikh, and also in Daraya and Jobar as well as in Douma. Among the terrorists killed there was Hassan Bitar, a leader of a terrorist group. Governor of Homs, Salah al-Barazi, said that the cases of 35 persons aged between 15 and 55 years old who were evacuated from the old city of Homs neighborhoods were settled. Meeting the persons whose cases were settled, the governor pointed out to halting the evacuation operations today because some armed groups prevented the citizens inside from moving from the crossing points to outside the old city. He added that the situation of the young men whose cases have not been settled yet will be studied in 4 days according to the legal situation, as some of them will benefit from the amnesty law and some might go to court within a legal framework. Minister of Interior Lieutenant General Mohammad al-Shaar said that there is no force in the world that can dictate on the Syrian things that contradict their principles, even by waging an unprecedented war of terrorism. During a ceremony for the graduation of officers, al-Shaar added that Syria's steadfastness over 3 years made the foreign enemies drop their plans, launching attacks in support of takfiri terrorists. In turn, Director of the Faculty of Police Science stressed that the graduates are the trustees of the message they consented to carry, which is defending the land against any kind of aggression. In Damascus, activities of the Syrian Women Ladies of Peace Conference kicked off under the title, "The Role of Syrian Women in Ending War and Bringing Peace." The participants discussed the women protection laws during the crises and proposed mechanisms for women empowerment in society. Minister of Social Affairs Dr. Kinda Shamat underlined the government's interest in safeguarding the rights of Syrian women, building their capabilities and bolstering their social roles. The minister said the conference is aimed at laying down executive mechanisms for implementing the women-oriented protection and equality programs and activating the women's role in ending war, in addition to their participation in political life and national reconciliation. She stressed that the Syrian legislations have laid the structure for ensuring women's rights under the current crisis. Head of the Syrian Commission for Family Affairs, Dr. Insaf Ahmad, said the Syrian women have been subjected to kidnapping and trafficking in refugee camps outside the country without drawing a condemnation from international organizations. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching us. For more details about Syria and the region, you can always view our bulletin, syriaonline.sy. After the break, it's Vani with our economic and business news. God bless you, and long live Syria.